Hola everyone. So I'm going to talk about sexual harassment in the Army and touch on like a few things as far as that. So the Army does have a response program. It's called SHARP, and I've touched on that a little bit, and it's mostly a joke, and I guess they've continued to ramp up efforts to respond to the continued problem that they have, but I don't see that really changing in the Army because they don't prosecute anybody. If they prosecute somebody, it's always the lower enlisted people that they don't mind getting rid of. So it's never going to be your high-ranking anyone. So, and it's you can prove it. They can record everything. These people have the power to listen to your phone conversations, to tap into your cameras. They can find everything. So it's not like they can't prove it. So this is a matter of the willpower. They don't have the willpower to do it. So, and the corruption is up high. So I assure you. So I wanted to start though, I already kind of have told you about my basic training, and I'm still scared of that man. Sometimes when it's really hard to explain certain things unless you've like experienced it yourself. Terror is kind of difficult to describe unless you've been there, and that person is still alive. Like I don't even remember that drill sergeant's name, but I'm still afraid of that person as well as that other person, and I'm afraid to mention their name, but I did write that other person's name down. But in case I get afraid again, I'm not going to mention their name. But I have been afraid that I'm being followed. So, and maybe that's part of the reason that right now, like, I don't feel like getting a permanent place to live. And I'm just staying in campgrounds. So, but I first will start speaking about women, like lesbians. So I was concerned when I went into the Army if that was going to be an issue, if I was going to be harassed by other women. And I was harassed by a student in medic school that was a lesbian and her partner. They were bullying me. They kept nagging at me to join them, and I'm like, I'm not a lesbian. Like, so I finally had to get rude with them and mean and threaten them with some kind of action against them if they didn't leave me alone. So, but that was the only time that that ever happened. Most of the women that you meet, there's a lot of women that are lesbians in the Army, and unfortunately, there's a lot of attitudes with the men that they're the only women that work hard, which is definitely not true. But some of those women are the only kind of women that get any kind of support, because they get support from other women that are like them. And so if you're not in that group, you can feel very alone, especially if you're not laying on your back and sleeping with all these men. So it can just get really defeating, and I felt like it was just, there was no support at all. So you either with the boys club sleeping around, or you're with the lesbians. So anyway, they didn't harass me once I was in the real Army, regular Army. Like they didn't bother me at all. In fact, my roommate, she was a lesbian, and we got along fantastically. So, you shouldn't have any issues that way. They're usually very respectful, and a lot of them have been in the Army a long time, and they know what it was like to be disrespected for their choices. So, but I do think that that may change, where you may be harassed. I can see that changing, the tide changing, and more like the Bible story of Sodom and Gomorrah, where you will be harassed if you don't join them. And my unit, that they all did go together to the lesbian bars, and I'm not judging you, go do what you want. I'm just saying that that seems to be the tide, that I can very easily see that would be the case. So sexual harassment basically is bullying or coercion of a sexual nature. I had to look up the definition. I wanted to give you the right definition. And with a promise of reward. And so I actually had a sergeant. He was very blatant about it. He wanted me to meet him at the movies. And I was afraid to give him any response, and so I didn't show, and I didn't ever respond to his text messages. And so the following Monday, he didn't have anything for me to do, and it continued that way all week. He just didn't have any work for me anymore, and continued like that. And then Sergeant First Class was also like that, and he was mad when I went to lunch with a man that used to work in the staff. He had moved to a different battalion, and but they just didn't seem to have any work for me because I wasn't going out with them. So, and the medic, Sergeant First Class, was that way as well. So in a lot of times they'll say either that they're not married, or they're having marital problems, they're about to divorce, they're separated, or they're all lies. They're living with their wives think everything's fine, but it turns out that, you know, you can't trust anything they say, but you don't know that, like, but anyway, at least with sexual harassment, that's different than, but these men, they lie about everything, but they suck you in like this, getting you to feel sorry for them. But the one sergeant that wanted me to meet him for a movie, like, he was single, and I just definitely was not interested. And I could have really helped him too, because English was a second language for him. And he couldn't spell anything right, which I'm not a great speller either, but anyway. First sergeant came and rescued me from that one. So oh, I had another one. This was actually the one I did file a complaint on. I filed a formal complaint on this one. And this was after we came back from deployment, and everyone was supposed to have their room inspected. But the sergeant came after work and married, lots of kids, but I mean, I don't know any of those things really about him. But so he comes to my room and starts going through all my stuff. This is what they do. Like, nobody does this to them because they have families, right? You can't do this, but they do this to me. I'm a grown woman. I've had children of my own, but they do this to me. So he goes through all my drawers, right? Like, luckily I don't have like lingerie or anything, but there's a lot of women that do. So, but then he wants to do more. Like, he starts standing there and like the door is closed and it gets really awkward. And I can't remember how the rest of it went, so I won't tell you exactly. But he knew that I was not interested in doing anything more, and so the following Monday was uncomfortable, to say the least. But we had also another assignment, an additional assignment, which was to get our dress uniforms ready to go. But the problem was there was so many sergeants in that office that Snake Eyes, who I've told you a little bit about, she was very bossy. So I tell you about these women too, that they love these women that have zero leadership ability, but they're control freaks, high anxiety, and they're tyrants. So she came in and starts bossing me, but I understand this man to be my sergeant now, because he came in and like he's running the place. This is what I'm understanding. So I'm supposed to go to him for help, but now he won't even really speak to me. And I need help with my uniform because I don't know how to do it, and I don't have a vehicle. Because I hadn't done uniforms before except in basic training, but now I'm in a new unit and I don't know the extra stuff that we're supposed to put on. So I need help. And I'd only been in just a little over a year. So, but he won't help me, and he won't guide me to anybody that can, and I don't know what to do. And the medics had demoted me for going to another sergeant within the medic platoon and talking to them, to the higher ranking sergeant. So I was so confused about how the Army worked that this is the reasons this is how they used it against me. But everywhere I turned, like, they were making marks against me, putting papers in this file to put me out of the Army. But they do this to other people too. If they don't like you, something just that you're different, like you, then they're angry, and these people are tyrants. It's unreal. So it comes time that I'm supposed to be wearing my uniform, but I don't have a clue how to do it. I don't have a car, because I couldn't afford a car. So they took 2 weeks of my pay, demoted me, and I have to pay child support. So I'm dealing with all that, and my pay for the month was $450. I have a college degree. I was working when I was deployed 7 days a week, at least 15 hours a day. Come home, and we're not working as much anymore, but my paycheck is $450 a month. I barely could afford to buy a phone. There was no way I could buy a car or pay for car insurance. I had a ton of debt from my divorce. My ex-husband wouldn't pay it. So I was laden with all this debt and child support. So of course these people are immature. So my sergeants, they're immature, irresponsible. They can't understand why I couldn't afford a car or wouldn't know how to do my uniform. So I didn't even go out to formation because they were all in their dress blues, and I brought my dress blues, but they weren't ready. So I brought them, but I did attendance every morning, and that was part of my duty. And so I was doing the attendance. And so I worked really hard, but it was always overseen, overlooked, always. But they were always focused on, like, whatever it is that they wanted to look at. So whatever they wanted to find fault with is what they looked at. So then the sergeant brings me out, and then I have to stand there forever. I remember having my uniform and stuff out, and then needing to use the bathroom, and she made me stand right there for the longest time, and I felt like my bladder was gonna blow up. And I finally dropped my stuff when she said I could go, because you have to ask, like, she was a tyrant. I don't know where she is, but I think she went into the intelligence unit, which is, like, beyond laughable. I laugh anytime now I hear Army intelligence, because I think, yeah, that's where that sergeant went. Army intelligence. Boy, they were made smarter that day. So, anyway, she and her buddy read charges against me to have me kicked out of the army with a dishonorable discharge for not having my uniform ready to go. But they couldn't do it because I told my friend what happened with this sergeant. And I couldn't get my stuff ready because I didn't have any kind of help. And the sergeant said to me, like, you would tell me what's going on, right? But remember what I said, like, if you're the kind of person that can't be trusted, like, people are not going to tell you things that you need to be trustworthy of to know. And that includes combat or things that are traumatic or difficult to talk about. It includes sexual harassment and assault. Anything that is personal. She was definitely not, if you're a tyrant, you're definitely not someone that is going to be trustworthy. You cannot be trusted of that kind of information. So, anyway, they had to drop it, and she went off to wherever, thank goodness, and that other tyrant sergeant left, and but those are a few thoughts. Oh, and I wanted to talk about the medics when I was deployed, and I don't know if I can fully describe to you what happened on my deployment. I did talk about it in detail when I returned to a nurse, but a lot of those things I have blanked on and blocked out. I cannot remember people, and a lot of things I just can't remember. I struggle a lot with words and things, like when I'm talking on here, I know that I stammer a lot and I just can't remember things. So the first month I was with the medics, I will tell you about this. I'm sorry I say so much. Trump would have a heyday with me, I know, like he would just tear me apart. Just spit it out already. Well, I can't, I'm sorry. I'm alone all the time. So, these people, these medics, they were all young. Most of them were young, not all of them. The higher leadership were not young. So, with sexual harassment, so basically, you need to be in agreement. If you're not in agreement with what's going on, then you don't get the prize. If you're in agreement, then you get the prize, right? So, what is the agreement? The agreement is the sexual nature of what's going on. So, these people would sit around and talk about their sexual exploits in the office during the day, during medic time. They also had, there was one of the guys was very crude, and he would make his like flashlight into a penis and like throw it around, and then like he had pictures on his computer. They were blatant, you could see them, like all this is going on in the medic office, and they're talking about in detail, graphic detail, about their sexual exploits in the bunkers. These are young women, some of them married, one of them for sure, and no, two of them. I know one of them was with a different guy every night, and some of them high-ranking men that she was with. Anyway, they're talking about their sexual exploits in detail during medic time. So I'm with them by now 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I think 4 weeks by this time, and we have this meeting. And one of the girls, black gal, she states some grievances. We're having this open meeting on a Sunday afternoon when we're supposed to be off. And it's supposed to be where there are no repercussions for what we say. That's laughable. So she states her grievances And then I say, you know, I just want to say off the heels of that I also feel, you know, I haven't been here very long, but I've been here long enough to observe that this place is like a cesspool. Like, I can't believe some of the things that are going on here. I was demoted, got into trouble with these people within a week, and they had me demoted by within weeks. I lost my rank, and these people, anyway, I lost 2 weeks pay, because I didn't put my hands behind my back, and none of them ever did that with their sergeants. They were harassing me. They accused me of not going through the chain of command, so they would do this paperwork trail with me. And I had been talking to the Sergeant First Class about my problems. And so that's when I was accused of not going through the trail or something. The Sergeant First Class was closer to my age, and the sergeant that was right over me, or I think it was a specialist, he was like 20 years old. Anyway, it was very bizarre, the whole thing. Felt like I just fell on my head there. In fact, a medic, someone who was a former medic at the brigade, when I was getting on the bus, somehow I had an exchange with him prior, and he, as I was waving goodbye, he said to me, well, I don't want to say my name. He said, "I'm really sorry." He apologized that because of where I was going and who I was going to be with. I didn't know what he meant. And I don't know if that has also something to do with a sergeant major that I had a run-in with at brigade level, who I think hates my guts also. And I'll never know. Like, I know I might look like, I'm actually Armenian. I'm not, I don't know what else people think about Middle Eastern people, even though my mother was born in Aleppo, Syria. Like, we're Christian, but I know I look Armenian, but it's wrong to just assume people are bad because they look a certain way, because you're killing people that look like them. I don't know. I felt like maybe that had something to do with it too. But I always loved America because I was grateful that I was free and I was not living in Syria. After the army, like, it was a very bitter experience. Very sad experience, and I don't know. Now I just kind of feel like running all the time. And hiding, and meeting black women make me just feel justified in these feelings. Although not all the time. I met a woman today at the store. I was very surprised the way she greeted me. Anyway, what else? Oh, porn. So, like, I don't want to say like every man is like this, because I'm sure there are exceptions. It just feels like it's every man doing this. It seems like, especially in the army, like, you meet somebody that's really nice or could potentially be like a good husband or a good whatever, but they just really lack integrity, and most of them are hopelessly addicted to porn, and porn really teaches a man that he should be just keep putting those notches on the belt, and So, like, I was always paying for my own meal or paying for his. But occasionally, like, I would meet men that would pay for my meal, but they were always taken. And so that's the way it is. Or just there was nothing there, you know? So I really felt for women that were married to most of these men that were in the army. I just feel like most of them are monsters. So, including my ex-husband. I don't know how my boys are, my children. I hope they're not monsters. If you ever watch this, my sons, I hope you're not monsters watching porn. I really love you, and if you have a problem with that, then I forgive you. I just really hope you would stop. Anyway, the doctors. I went and saw a doctor, and I was talking to this doctor. It was a female type doctor. It was a male doctor, but for female needs. And the doctor was describing to me the women in the army. I don't know, I don't want to say this wrong, but the women in the army have a lot of partners. That it compared it a lot like prostitution in Las Vegas. So, and you can look at it a couple of different ways. One, that the women are loose, or that the men are loose, and that there just really are no good prospects. But I definitely would encourage the women to just stop engaging with these men. They're not worth it, and I'm definitely happier out of the army and away from these type of men, and even just away from that type of atmosphere. It's not conducive to a happy life. So those are some thoughts on sexual harassment and a happy life. And with pornography and masturbation, like, it's best to stop all of it. Like, the better control you have of yourself, the happier you'll be, truly, men and women. Just stop all of it and be obedient. Like, truly, the happiest man or woman is one who has control of themselves and is not controlled by his or her appetites.